here. Okay, so we have two lists. We got list number 10, list number 11. We're going to just start on list 10 on, well, two things. Number one, there's two withdrawals. Let's just start right off the bat. At the end, you'll see there's two withdrawals, Senate Bill 350 and 476. So the vice chair has already moved unfavorable on the two withdrawals. Second, Senator Harris. Okay, all in favor of the withdrawals, of the unfavorables on the two withdrawals, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries. Those bills are unfavorable. And then let's go, again, staying on number 10, on Senate Bill 242. Devin only has one bill on this whole calendar, and we want to not keep him unduly. So Senate Bill 242, and also this bill also has to go to the Finance Committee. There's second. So let's take up 242, Devin.
Senate Bill 242, Modernizing Civil Relief for Service Members Act. This bill explicitly authorizes an active service member or an active service member's spouse who relocates to the state due to orders for service and holds a license issued by another jurisdiction to practice under that license within Maryland if the individual submits an application including specified documentation and satisfies other criteria. If an active service member or spouse is authorized to practice under the bill's provision, the individual may practice only in the discipline and scope of practice allowed by the license in the other jurisdiction. And the licensing authority in the state may not require another license unless the individual seeks to practice outside of that authorized discipline or scope of practice. It also makes conforming changes and modifies eligibility requirements for certain expedited licensing procedures. Finance is secondary on this bill. This bill may sound familiar because you've passed out the bill for foreign service members, Senate Bill 418 last week. There are amendments offered by Senator Simonaire on page 14 of your packet, and again, I've spared you the 97-page reprint. These amendments clarify that a service member or their spouse, if they practice their occupation in the state, are subject to the same oversight authority and disciplinary authority as every other licensee.
Okay, Senator Simonaire, do you want to say anything about the amendments or move the amendments? Whatever.
Move the amendments.
Okay, Senator Simonaire moves his amendments on Senate Bill 242. Senator Harris seconds. Any discussion on these amendments? Okay, all in favor of the amendments to 242 from Senator Simonaire, raise your hand. All opposed, amendments carry. Senate Bill 242 as amended is in front of us. Is there a motion? Okay, Senator Simonaire moves 242 as amended. Is there a second from Senator Harris? All in favor of 242 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed, that motion carries. Do we know where Senator Hester is? Or
Thank you, committee.
You want to just call her? Here before. Okay, while okay, now let's go back over to voting list number 11. And we've got 4 bills on this list, and then we'll come back to voting list number 10. Okay, Senate Bill 31, we're going to start with that. April.
Just so generally, in case you hadn't kind of caught it, the bills on this list all deal with land use and housing in sort of different ways. So we'll start with Senate Bill 31, school construction and housing, school zones, and adequate public facilities ordinances. So as introduced, this bill requires each local board of education to submit a student residency and school zones report to the Maryland Department of Planning and the Interagency Commission on School Construction, including information on the school zone boundaries and attendance area map, the locations of each student residence, and the state-rated capacity, student population, and capacity percentage of each school in the county. Further, the bill prohibits a county adequate public facilities ordinance, or APFO, that restricts housing development on the basis of school capacity from delaying the processing and completion of subdivision or site development plans, but allows an APFO to delay the issuance of final permits. There are amendments in your packet. So the first amendment on page 2 of the packet, this is amendment number 963-527/1, being offered by the bill sponsor, Senator Lamb, alters the information to be included in the student residency and school zones report to include only 1, school zone boundaries and the attendance area map, and 2, the census tract and block data reported to the Department of Education in accordance with a current section of code. The next amendment, also being offered by Senator Lamb on page 3 of your voting packet, clarifies that the bill's provisions only apply to an APFO that includes a definite maximum length of time to restrict or limit housing development on the basis of school capacity. The amendment also clarifies that the APFO may delay the initiation of construction, and that kind of is in keeping with the intent of allowing plan review to proceed while the developer waits for that defined waiting period to end. Finally, there's one additional amendment in your bill packet starting on page 6 from Senator Kagan. This amendment adds language requiring county boards of education to consult with municipalities that exercise planning and zoning authority when they develop the county's annual local educational facilities master plan, which is submitted to the Interagency Commission on School Construction. The county board must incorporate data provided by the municipalities into the plan's enrollment projections and analysis of future facility needs.
Okay, so we've got some amendments from the sponsor, Senator Lamb, and a separate amendment from Senator Kagan. Why don't we start, well, how about questions just generally on either the Lamb amendments or the Kagan amendments? Senator Kagan, did you want to speak at all to your amendments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say that I really appreciated April drafting this language. We had a couple of rounds of it, but I think she did the perfect job with this language. Senator Lamb is fine with it. It is additive and doesn't mess with his bill. But the bottom line is that municipalities with planning and zoning authority are often overlooked by counties when they're figuring out school closing or school boundaries. And so this would just require that as they are preparing reports and looking at data, that they need to collaborate with and respect the expertise and plans by our cities and towns that have zoning authority.
Okay, we have a question from Senator Gallion on any of the amendments, Lamb and Kagan amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So concerns with this bill is coming in how it weakens local authority, restricting counties' ability to manage.
Yeah, can we just clarify,
Yeah.
are we talking about the amendments
Well,
or the
I'm getting
underlying
to
bill?
that. And I noticed in the bill folder, there's a lot of opposition, mainly MACO had some. So I was wondering if the amendments address any of their concerns.
Okay, well, we do have MACO here. Kate?
And if they'd still be unfavorable if they were adopted.
Okay, Dom, just be brief. We don't want to have another bill hearing, but since it was MACO was invoked.
Very briefly, Mr. Chair, for the record, Don Butchko with MACO. These amendments do not touch our concerns whatsoever. Local county governments have absolutely no say whatsoever in school redistricting. That is on the school boards. That is not an APFO issue. That is a county school board issue, not a county issue. This bill does not get at the heart of what's causing the delay, and we would still be opposed even with these amendments.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, additional questions for April? Okay, seeing none. Okay, well, we've got Senate Bill 31 on the table. Any further discussion, any motions on let's put together the Lamb and Kagan amendments? Is there a motion? Okay, Senator Harris moves the Lamb and Kagan amendments collectively. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from the vice chair. So we do have the amendments in front of us with a motion and a second. Let's just do a roll call on this one. Just on the amendments.
All right. Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Gallion?
No.
Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson? Yes. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar?
Yes.
Senator Attar, yes. Senator Harris? Senator Harris, yes. Senator Brooks?
Yes.
Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carrozza? No. Senator Carrozza, no. Senator Simonaire?
Yeah.
Senator Simonaire, yes. And Senator Feldman?
Yes. Motion carries 8-2. Now we've got Senate Bill 31 as amended in front of the body. A motion from Senator Harris. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from the vice chair. Okay, we have a Senate Bill 31 as amended before us. Discussion. Senator Gallion.
This bill is concerning, very concerning. Local governments are in best position to determine when school capacity can support new development, in my opinion. I think this is really a knock on that. I mean, we got school systems, many are already facing capacity challenges, and this bill would remove an important planning safeguard. So this is the state coming in and really messing over the locals here. So there's no way I could support a bill like this. When you I represent 2 counties, and this is not good. So those are my 2 cents.
Okay, further discussion, comments?
I do want to just
Yeah.
clarify one thing. So, and I understand that this does not remove MACO's opposition to the bill, but if you take a look at pages 4 through 5 of the voting packet, the revised language is really, it is targeting the counties that, again, have a defined waiting period. So this is not about the counties that say you have to wait until school capacity opens up. This is about counties that specifically have an APFO that has, it says you have to sort of wait for 2 years if you're in one of these areas that doesn't have capacity. And after 2 years, the project can proceed, or 3 years, or whatever the defined waiting period is. So this does not affect a county that has sort of an open-ended APFO that just says you can't proceed at all until school capacity opens up. So I just want to make that clarification.
Senator Gallion?
So which counties would this affect then?
I don't happen to know off the top of my head.
Okay, well, with the risk of, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but is it easily, do you have the answer to that question? We can follow up. Okay. Okay, Senator Carrozza?
So, just echoing Senator Gallion's concerns, and those of us who have kind of delved into individual school construction issues in our counties, and maybe it would be helpful to have some input there, but I mean, we're talking about, school construction and housing, school zones. We have, it just looks like different entities are out of their lanes at this point, and not even knowing, I don't know what the impact is on my 3 counties. In Worcester County, we worked through this whole issue about capacity issues and a school that was supposed to be on track and then ended up being delayed. And so you see something like this, and I think we have an obligation to know what this specific language, if we're changing the law here, means on our individual counties. And I don't have that information. We've got MACO's concerns. So, I'm a no, and I'm sorry to see this moving forward when we really don't know what the impact is.
Okay, additional questions, comments? Okay, we did have a motion favorable and a second. Okay, we'll take a roll call on this one as is.
All right, Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Gallion? No. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson? Yes. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar? Yes. Senator Atari, yes. Senator Harris? Senator Harris, yes. Senator Brooks? Yes. Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza? No. Senator Carozza, no. Senator Salmonere? No. Senator Salmonere, no. Senator Feldman?
Aye, so the motion carries 7-3 on Senate Bill 31 as amended. We're going to go next to Senator Brooks, April, on Senate Bill 267. And this one, budget and tax, is second.
And can I get somebody to help pass out that one? All right. This is Senate Bill 267, Land Use, Residential Housing, Oversight, Regulation, and Taxation, Building Affordability in My Backyard. This bill establishes various provisions relating to residential housing development and availability in the state, including, as introduced, a requirement that housing production targets be established for the state and local jurisdictions beginning in 2031, requirements that state agencies undertake specified reviews and evaluations, requirements and authorizations applicable to local jurisdictions' development review processes, and authorizations for local tax and fee incentives and disincentives. There is an amendment, again, in your bill packet. This starts on page 7, and you can see the reprint beginning on page 8. This is an amendment from Senator Brooks. The amendment strikes most of the bill, leaving only the following provisions. First, it requires the Department of Housing and Community Development to establish a registry that is sort of being informally referred to as a responsible owner registry that requires corporate owners of residential real estate to register annually with the department for the purpose of providing contact information to county governments. It also maintains provisions that authorize local jurisdictions that determine there is a shortage of affordable housing within the local jurisdiction to establish by local law an administrative review and approval process for housing development project applications. Everything else is struck from the bill by these amendments. Yeah, and so the separate amendment that just came around, also being offered by Senator Brooks, narrows the application of the registration requirements to apply only to property owners that rent or intend to rent their properties for residential use, and exempts property owners in counties that have local registration requirements already under local law.
Okay, so a large chunk of the bill has been stricken, but we do have these two amendments modify the bill. Senator, yes, Senator Brooks, do you want to say, Senator Carozza had a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask April, that was the, that amendment was because of AOBA? Yes, okay, thanks. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. Okay, Senator Carozza, questions just on the Brooks amendments?
Thank you. On the Brooks amendments, I didn't know if they addressed the Maryland Realtors' opposition to the original bill.
Do we know that?
Let me just pull up theirs. Yes, so their opposition.
Actually,
yes.
you got Bill Costelli here. Okay, Mr. Costelli, why don't you just come up here, and with this bill that's been substantially revised, the piece of legislation, the amendments, just be very brief.
Very briefly, Bill Costelli on behalf of the Maryland Realtors. And we haven't reviewed the specific language, but just based on what was represented, I believe the Realtors' concerns were addressed.
Okay. Senator Watson, question for you? Oh, Senator Carozza, you had another question?
Yeah, I also had a question because I had, and again, it was to the original bill, my understanding that Worcester County also opposed this bill. And Dom, I don't know if you have an update based on these new amendments.
Really brief. The only thing that's left in here for counties is enabling, so there should be nothing in here that, you know, it's optional tools. Dom with Mako for the record.
Okay. Senator Watson, did that address anything? Okay, Senator Watson, then Senator Attar.
Yeah, let me just make sure, because when I looked at the whole bill and we got something that strikes a whole bunch of it, but there's a little left, I just need to know, make sure these pieces are out. Does this bill still limit investor purchases to new listings?
No.
Okay, that's out. Does the bill still charge a transfer tax up to 5% when a person sells his home to a non-occupied owner?
No.
All right.
Ozempic Bambi.
Okay, does the bill still allow pre-approval of model of home design? So,
Hey, Ron, could you just maybe direct it, maybe it's better directing that
all right,
to April.
all right.
Yeah.
Ms. April, does the bill still allow pre-approval of model home design so builders can reuse approved plans and speed up permits? All right. Well, that takes care of my concerns. Thank you.
Senator Attar, and then we'll go back to Senator Gallion.
Thank you,
Senator
Mr.
Attar?
Chair. I think I have the answer, but I see Lori's here. Can you just say yes or no if you still have concerns? Okay, thank you.
Okay, Senator Gallion.
So April, would you concur that this makes this more of an enabling bill for the counties then?
Yes, the only thing that remains in here, it says that if the county determines that it does not have a sufficient affordable housing, it may, it's not required to, enact this administrative process for reviewing and approving residential housing developments.
Okay, thanks.
Any additional questions for April? Okay, is there a motion on the Brooks amendment? Senator Brooks, would you like to move your amendments? Okay, Brooks moves the Brooks amendments. Is there a second from Senator Watson? All in favor of the Brooks amendments on Senate Bill 265, raise your hand. All opposed? Okay, those amendments carry. We now have 267 as amended before us. Senator Brooks? Okay, Senator Brooks moves the bill as amended. Second from Senator Harris. Discussion? All in favor of Senate Bill 267 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Let's next go back to you, April, on Senate Bill 325 from Senator Augustine.
Senate Bill 325, Land Use Permitting Development Rights, the Maryland Housing Certainty Act. This bill establishes that one, a housing development project application approval or denial is governed only by laws and regulations in effect when a substantially complete application was submitted. And two, after approval, the proponent of the project has a vested right to the authorized use and development for the longer of 5 years or a period determined by the local jurisdiction or the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. The bill also prohibits a county or municipality from collecting development impact fees or excise taxes imposed on a residential real estate project until after construction is complete and all requirements for a certificate of occupancy, occupancy permit, or other equivalent have been met. There are amendments, again, in your voting packet. The first is on page, begins on page 15 of the voting packet, being offered by the bill sponsor, Senator Augustine. These amendments strike references to substantially complete applications and substitute the term complete application, which the amendment defines. You can see that definition on page 15, voting packet. Adds a definition of phase for the purpose of bill language providing for the application of the bill's requirements to different phases of a development. Extends certain timelines in the bill, giving jurisdictions 30 days instead of 15 to make a determination as to the completeness of an application, and providing that an application shall be deemed complete if the jurisdiction fails to make a determination within 35 days instead of 20. So that's the First Amendment. The Second Amendment, also offered by Senator Augustine. This is on page 26 of the voting packet. This amendment simply strikes references to surcharges in provisions of the bill dealing with when jurisdictions may collect development impact fees or excise taxes. And then finally, a sort of last minute, kind of informally drafted amendment, this is on page 27 of the voting packet, would allow local jurisdictions to collect development impact assessments and fees as a precondition to conducting a final inspection, but not more than 30 days before the date of the inspection. as sort of an alternative to the bill's language currently saying that they can't do it until they've met all the requirements for the certificate of occupancy.
Okay, so we have the Augustine amendments in front of us on Senate Bill 325. Questions for April on, yes, Senator Watson?
So let me make sure I understand this, April. So when a development goes up, they're usually done in stages or phases, right? And with these amendments, this is saying that a phase has to be complete before the local can impose impact fees?
This says that you have to, basically the project has to be entirely complete.
So that's
and
all
ready.
phases?
All phases.
That's ridiculous.
Did the amendment change that, though?
Did the amendment change that? So
Not,
in other words, if there's a new development that has 5 phases, 4 of those phases can be complete and folks can move in and they can get their UNO, but the last phase, because it's not complete, impact fees
No.
cannot be gathered?
as long as you are at the point where you get a UNO. The phase language is dealing with the,
Use and
UNO.
occupancy
Use and
permit.
occupancy.
right, so the phase language is not specific to the collection of the fees provision. That, the bill does not break down how those provisions would
So-
apply to phase developments. But my interpretation of the bill, I mean, it says that they can do it, actually, it's a good question. It just does not address the phase development in that section.
So with the amendment, the bill still says development impact fees and the excise taxes cannot be collected until construction is complete.
Correct.
I don't like that.
Okay, let's take some additional questions from Senator Carrozza. By the way, just because there was a lot of, as I recall, a lot of support for the bill. I don't even recall who was opposed to the bill. I mean, there was opposition. Okay, fair enough. Senator Carrozza.
It might be along the lines of Senator Watson's questions. I was going to the amendments, and I was trying to understand the section, any development excise tax or development impact fee imposed on a residential real estate project may be collected as a precondition to conducting a final inspection.
Where's the bill?
But then the not more than 30 days. I guess I'm just trying to understand that amendment.
Right, so that amendment is, so as the bill is introduced, it says basically that local jurisdiction cannot collect these taxes and fees until construction is complete and you've reached the point where, the certificate of occupancy or whatever is about to be issued. This amendment was in response to, I believe it's current practice in Montgomery County, that they collect the fees at the point when somebody schedules their final inspection. So this would essentially allow them to continue that practice.
It just affects Montgomery County and they're okay with it, so.
Yeah, I mean, or any other county could, under this, could follow that model. If that's when they want to impose the fees, is they could make it a precondition. So, you as the developer go and try to schedule your final inspection. The county could say, all right, we'll get that on the books for you, but you've got to pay these fees and assessments before we do the inspection.
At the point of inspection as opposed to the point of occupancy?
Right, as opposed
So
to
it
the point
allows
of
them to go for the fees earlier?
a little bit.
Okay, can I just, I'm getting, I don't know, Chuck, you have, Brad Fallon he's saying that the collection of the impact fees are due before use and occupancy is issued, so you cannot build multiple phases without collecting impact fees. Chuck, can you just come up here, because this seems to be a source of some discussion, and it could be helpful, just get some clarification.
Thank you, Chair. Chuck Cook, DHCD for the record. Senator Watson, to your question specifically, with use and occupancy, you could not build 4 phases over like 10 years and have to wait to the very end. The way the bill treats it and with the language change with the amendment, each phase is a discrete element, which would require its own vesting process. And as it was stated with Montgomery County's amendment, and to Senator Carrozza's point, it's now even earlier in the process. So people can't be living in any of these phases of development without collection of impact fees on any of it across.
The definition of phase, is that on? The definition of phase, is that standard? So this bill says 25 units or more is a phase.
Yeah, well, it's several. I think it's 3 criteria in there, according to the amendment. We were trying to, when we were working with MACO and MML on disambiguation of the language between phase and stage,
Yeah.
we actually put this language in so that we could be very clear on what a phase is, so that you're looking at a distinct development project with its own housing that can be over several years. I think there are, like I said, 3 criteria in there to ensure that, first of all, it's housing, that it's got its own, for lack of a better term, phase, and I'm not looking at the language right now, but the point of this amendment is to disambiguate the language because there was some confusion on what a stage and a phase was. And we wanted to make sure that local governments weren't locked in on a vesting on a project for like 15 years on multiple phased projects. We wanted to make sure that they were distinct.
So, indulge me for a minute, Mr. Chair. So these things are all kind of coming together. So we got one thing where, you know, one of these bills, we're going to increase the time where the zoning can change to give some certainty to folks who want to build these things, right? Then we have the bill we just heard, Senator Lamb's school construction bill, and if I remember the testimony on that, it was kind of to fast track things and do things dual, to push them together, do them at the same time so it doesn't unduly impact the ability to deal with affordable housing through their process. But the whole piece of this that I struggle with, and you tell me if it's fixed, is that the county can't get the impact fees as the units are going up to keep track with the infrastructure that they may or may not be responsible for, as well as public safety requirements that they're able to do under the usage of impact fee. What am I missing?
That there is no impact until there are people living there. That the impact to schools don't exist until children are there, that the impact to public safety doesn't exist until people are living there.
So that's interesting. That's very interesting. So you're only looking at it once it's occupied, and I kind of look at it as the increased traffic, the traffic holdups, the traffic snarls because road construction machines are going up and down the road, the people who are going to look at the properties and those types of things. I kind of look at all of that as an impact, but you're saying the statute is until somebody moves in, an impact fee, there is no impact.
The position is that there is no impact. What I think this amendment does is ensure that it's paid before people move in, but near the end. So it is a condition so that a developer or a builder can't build something and then people can move in and then they owe the money. It is a condition, I believe, on final inspection, correct? With this amendment, it is in order to get your final inspection, you would need to come due with all of the money.
All right, Chuck, so you're the expert in this. What's the average number of homes in a phase in a large development?
It is entirely dependent upon what the developer is doing, 100, 200 units, I don't know,
Okay.
25, entirely different around the state.
So it could be 200 units. And what do you think the average amount of time is to build 200 units?
The average amount of time?
Is it 6 months? Is it a year?
In some places, it's up to 5 years.
It's up to 5 years.
It can be.
So
yeah.
a large project, large development, could take up to 5 years before the county can not recoup, but get the impact fees associated with all those units.
We would
based
hope
on what we're doing here.
Under that scenario, yes. We would hope that it wouldn't take that long. We would hope that it'd take 18 months to get something done, but I'm just saying on average in Maryland, it can sometimes take up to 5 years. Sometimes.
Thank you.
locally.
All right,
Okay.
thanks, Chuck.
Okay, I have a request from one of the members to Angelica from MML, just to clarify one question. And actually, Senator Hester, you had a question for Angelica.
Thank you very much. I was just curious why, like, the municipalities and the counties, like, care about the impact fee and how you're planning to pay for the infrastructure without the money up front.
Yeah, thank you, Senator, and thank you, Mr. Chair, Madam Vice Chair. Angelica Bailey-Thupari for the Maryland Municipal League. It's a great question, and first I want to give the administration a lot of credit for the negotiation and collaboration that we've had the last few months, and including in the interim on this bill. For MML, at least, the impact fees piece is the last piece that we have unfinished. And the reason, to put it very simply, is we sort of have a philosophical disagreement with DHCD about the importance of having this money up front. So impact fees, and also what I'm going to use the phrase impact fees to refer to impact fees and also development excise taxes, which are different. But for the sake of ease of conversation, I'm just going to refer to both as impact fees. They are paid at the beginning. They are directly and proportionally tied to some sort of infrastructure need that is brought about by the new construction. And local governments simply don't have the money in the coffers to front that without having to turn to existing taxpayers for property taxes or to have to take out debt. So it's very important to local governments to have access to at least some of that funding up front. So MML and MACO, the Maryland Association of Counties, have both proposed an amendment that would have 50% paid much closer to the beginning of the process, and the second half paid later, whether that's at final inspection or you use an occupancy. That's not as big a deal, and we're not even super married to the 50-50 split, but some portion at the beginning to help us get started without having to go to our existing residents or take on debt to provide those infrastructure needs.
That would be like if you wanted to build, like if we have a new development and we want to build a school, then you get the money like earlier so you can start to build the school. So, or whatever else the fee was for.
I would say in principle, yes. In practice, municipalities haven't had that experience. We've spoken with Laurel and Brunswick in the last couple days, and they've both cited examples that are more about road safety than about schools. And actually fewer than 10 municipalities in the state, as far as we're aware, are implementing impact fees at this point. Development excise taxes, as I said, are a different animal. But impact fees specifically, not many of us are using them, but when we do, we really, really need them. And it tends more towards things like road and safety than schools so far in the municipal experience. I don't want to speak for the counties on that.
Let's take more questions. Let's get the issues out here. Senator Gallion.
Yeah, so just staying on the impact fees, they're critical for funding schools, roads, public safety, and infrastructure. We talked a little bit. This would almost be like, find a bunch of animals and then say, oh, we have the animals, so let's build the barn tomorrow. This is just backwards to me. They need some of that money a little early for planning for different road improvements and schools. So, I mean, I don't know where the 50, they talked about a compromise with 50%. Are those impact fees now, like they do like 75 to 100% early, and you're saying 50 would be all right, or where?
So it can be negotiated with the developer when those fees are paid, but by and large, they are paid towards the beginning of the process, whether it's usually not an application or even completion, but somewhere before construction, before the shovels actually hit the ground, is usually when the local government would receive all or at least most of the payment for impact fees. Right. And your analogy is a good one. I think of it as like a wedding. You don't pay for the entire wedding while you're getting your hair and makeup done, while the guests are filtering in, because you need to have made payments so that your vendors have gotten the chairs there and ordered the food, and the hall has been decorated. If you haven't set the stage, there's nothing for your guests to do or eat and nowhere for them to sit. You have to have at least some of that taken care of to have a good wedding, infrastructure, farm, what have you.
Right. And just one follow-up statement. These counties are on tight budgets. I think with the budget process this year, we're looking at more things being with pensions and things being passed down to counties. So they're running on tight budgets, and this just adds another hurdle if this were to pass in the current form.
Okay, Chuck, was there anything you wanted to say in response to the back and forth, just to add to the dialogue here?
Yeah, the only, I think my point more than anything else is we're looking at affordability. It's what housing certainty is about, right? And so both the 5-year vesting period takes away a lot of the uncertainty in the process. And then on the deferral of impact fees, and I have my colleague Jordan here who actually ran this county by county. In most counties, it adds an additional cost of $5,000 to $6,000 per unit just to produce it if you don't defer impact fees. Because, and as I understand, the municipalities and the counties where they are in the position and wanting that money up front, if you need the money up front, they're going to finance it. And when they're going to finance it, they're going to get a construction loan that's going to be at 7 to 8%. And unfortunately, Senator, in a lot of places in Maryland, it may take up to 5 years because of a lot of issues that they run into. So they're financing that money for that long, and they have to pay it off. And it creates an unaffordability problem with a lot of these units that we're trying to solve. That's kind of where we're coming from on this.
Okay, why don't we do this? Let's hold this discussion in abeyance. Let's go down, let's just to take up Senator Waldstreicher's Senate Bill 829, which is the 4th bill on the list, and then we'll come back to this. I'd like to, while we're on this particular voting list, just get rid of this or at least address the Senate Bill 829. April?
Senate Bill 829, Land Use, Multifamily Developments, and Mixed-Use Developments Authorization, the Bring Back Main Street Act, Senator Waldstreicher. As introduced, the bill would require a county with a population of more than 150,000 residents to allow multifamily developments or mixed-use developments on a parcel or lot that is 1, currently serviced by a water and sewer system, and 2, located on a parcel zoned for recreational or commercial use. There is an amendment in your bill packet. This amendment begins on page 28. This amendment is being offered by the bill sponsor, Senator Waldstreicher. The amendment strikes the bill and instead requires the Department of Housing and Community Development to conduct a study of residential and commercial zone laws. The department would be required to report its findings and recommendations to the General Assembly by December 1st, 2026.
Okay, so it's been converted to a study bill. So it's a Waldstreicher amendment. Any discussion on the Waldstreicher amendment? Okay, would somebody like to move the Waldstreicher amendment? Converts it. Senator Watson moves the Waldstreicher amendment, second from the vice chair. Discussion? Okay, all in favor of that amendment, converting this to a study, raise your hand. All opposed, the amendment carries. Senate Bill 829, as amended. Is there a motion? Favorable. Senator Harris, second from the vice chair. Okay, all in favor of the revised Senate Bill 829 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries. And before we go back to, let's just go over to the voting list number 10. Let's just get through, try to get some bills over on this list off the table. We'll come back to 325. Okay, Stacy, let's start with Senator Simon Ayer, the Douglas J.J. Peters related bill, Senate Bill 007.
Sure. Senate Bill 7, Higher Education, Douglas J.J. Peters, Veterans of the Afghanistan and Iraq Conflict Scholarship, repeal of termination date. This bill repeals language preventing the Maryland Higher Education Commission from issuing an initial Douglas J.J. Peters Veterans of the Afghanistan and Iraq Conflict Scholarship Award after June 30th, 2030. There were no amendments and no opposition.
Would the senator from the 23rd District have an interest in moving this J.J. Peters bill?
Yeah, I would love to be added as a co-sponsor.
Okay. Anybody else want to go on this piece of legislation as co-sponsor? We've got Senator Carrozza, Senator Hester, Senator Gallion, Senator Watson, Senator Attar, Senator Brooks. Okay, Senator Feldman.
It's going to be all of us.
Okay, who does not want to be on here as a co-sponsor? Raise your hand. Okay. Okay, does everybody want to be on here? Okay. Now's your moment. Express your, okay, all members of the committee, with the exception of our members not here, will go on as a co-sponsor. All in favor of the sponsor amendment, raise your hand. All opposed, amendment carries. So Senate Bill 7, as amended, is before us. Is there a motion on the bill as amended? Senator Watson moves favorable, second from Senator Carrozza. All in favor, Senate Bill 7 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries. Let's go to Stacy on Baltimore County Board of Education bill, Senate Bill 40 from Senator Sidnor.
Okay. Senate Bill 40, Maryland County Board of Education, alterations of elected member districts and establishment of redistricting process. This emergency bill requires that beginning with the 2034 general election, members of the Baltimore County Board of Education, currently elected from each of the 7 council-managed districts in the county, must instead be elected from each of the 7 school board districts established through a specified redistricting process. There are no amendments. There was generally no opposition, and the local letter has been received.
Local Baltimore County bill? Yeah. Well, okay, well, let's take the motion. Is there a second? And then we'll take discussion. Second from Senator Harris. Senator Gallion on Senate Bill 40 from Baltimore County.
Yeah, I realize this is a local bill, but sometimes if it sets a precedence, we look at it a little closer. So are there any other so I guess I know in Hartford and Cecil, 2 counties I represent, the elected school board members line up with the county council districts. So what this bill is doing, if I'm correct, is there are going to be different districts, the same amount of people, but different districts for the school board members?
Yes, they would go through their own redistricting process, and they would be established that way.
Is that done anywhere else in the state where the school board districts are different than the council districts?
Yeah.
And it's totally confusing. Nobody gets it.
Montgomery and Prince George's both have, I think, a redistricting process.
Montgomery and Prince George's have that.
Okay, well, so there is precedent for it then?
Yes.
Okay.
Additional questions for Stacy on Senate Bill 40? Okay, there are, yes, Vice Chair Kagan.
I'm just skimming the League of Women Voters opposition, which is the only significant opposition. Stacy, is there anything we need to be considering before we vote this bill?
No, I think Senator Sidnor had addressed their concerns. I'm not sure they will be satisfied, but they said they considered it when they made their determination to go forward with the favorable vote in the county.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions? No amendments?
No amendments.
Okay. Senate Bill 40, we had a favorable from Senator Brooks from Baltimore County, a second from the Vice Chair. All in favor, Senate Bill 40. Clean, raise your hand. All opposed, Senate Bill 40 carries unanimously. Okay, let's go to, here, before we do that, well, okay, let's just keep going here with this. Let's stay with you, Stacy. Let's tackle Senate Bill 311, the AIB bill, the 311 bill, Education Blueprint of Maryland's Future, Senate Bill 311.
Senate Bill 311, Education, the Blueprint for Maryland's Future revisions. This bill makes several alterations to the Blueprint for Maryland's Future programs. These changes involve, among other provisions, state and local funding for low-income students, local flexibility in the use of certain concentration of poverty grant funding, teacher certification qualifications, career and technical education, college and career readiness, and career ladder for educators. Essentially, what the bill does is it provides a 1-year extension of the hold harmless provision for the concentration of poverty grants, meaning that the AIB and MSD must continue to use the current methodology for counting students from low-income households for purposes of calculating the concentration of poverty grant. What else here? And then it strikes the CTE Skills Advisory Committee and just transfers those functions over to the CTE committee. It makes several minor changes to the teacher qualification provisions, and there's a provision that would strike the technology report. There are a set of amendments in your package here. They begin on page 31, but there's a reprint on page 34. And what these amendments would do is strike the repeal of the technology report from the bill. Second, it alters certain teacher certification provisions to repeal a requirement that a portfolio-based assessment be nationally accredited. It allows effective teacher evaluations from a school or a school system. It requires MSDE to suspend the operation of the Expert Review Teams program for the 26-27 school year, and it transfers funding from the ERT program to the Academic Excellence Program Fund for that 1 year, and it has a reporting requirement for November 1, 2026 to update the governor and the General Assembly on how they plan to implement that program going forward. Further, it requires AIB and MSDE to identify a methodology for counting students from low-income households to calculate the compensatory education funding formula. The process must be collaborative and transparent, and it include a consultation with the Department of Budget and Management and the Department of Legislative Services. AIB and MSDE must submit a report to the governor and the MGA by December, it says October 1, 2027, but that date is wrong. It should be December 1, 2026.
Okay. We have questions for Stacy on this packet of amendments. Okay, Senator Watson and Senator Gallion.
Question, Stacy, you had mentioned experts review. What is that again?
The expert review teams are the teams that were sent into each school to look at like deficiencies they might have or things that might be going well in that school and submit a report. After some evaluation, MSDE and AIB agree that the program is not functioning as intended. They would like to take a pause on that and then reevaluate and restructure.
Okay, thank you.
Gallion?
Just looking at the fiscal note, I mean, these are some pretty big numbers. I just, I was looking at the special fund expenditure, 228.4 million throughout. So this, any funding in this fiscal note is over and above what was originally planned, I guess, like a few years ago. So this is new on top of what we already are doing with the blueprint.
Well, I'm going to say this is not my my area is not specialty here in the education funding area, but there's in the law with regard to education funding, there's a method for counting low-income students, right? And that method was supposed to expire this year at the end of fiscal 26. And a new method was supposed to go in place in fiscal 27. That many of the stakeholders had concerns about that new method, and so the AIB and in the bill requested a 1-year extension so they could identify the appropriate methodology. How that relates to the costs in the fiscal note, I just don't understand. So
okay,
I think Ross might have an understanding here.
Would just say that it is covered by the governor's budget as introduced, is accounting for the additional year of the whole harmless for CEP districts, which is one methodology for and so, yes, there is some level of impact on the blueprint fund. It is still fully funded
Okay, but to get fully funded, I mean, it has to come from somewhere. So, I mean, we're in a tight budget. My concern is that we're seeing, you know, a huge increase in that from what was originally planned, and you know, that's just, you know, maybe a philosophical difference.
Okay. Vice Chair Kagan?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. Stacy, I can't find it in the bill. Can you just tell us what I thought you said is the technology committee, which was going to be removed, was amended and is no longer removed, or something to that?
So no, there was a technology report that's required to be submitted. They're taking that provision out of the bill. So the technology report was still continue to be required to be submitted by the local education agency.
Technology, yes.
Report, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Senator Watson?
Stacey, when we passed the blueprint last year, there was a EEE component for policy, but also a B&T component for funding.
Correct.
So why is there not a B&T proponent now if we're increasing the cost?
I don't make the assignments for the bills.
Okay.
So I was just as surprised as you were.
All right, thank you, thank you.
Okay. Senator Caruso. Senator Caruso.
Okay, I have two separate, one on the budget and one on the the bill. Stacy, I didn't know if, and I'm seeing this after the fact, that there was a proposed amendment from UMES to amend the composition of the Governor's Workforce Development Board to include CTE teacher educators. Was that brought to your attention?
It was, and the AIB, these amendments were offered by the chair on behalf of AIB, and they did not want to offer that amendment.
Okay, so it was, put forward. Okay, and then going back to the fiscal note, so I'm just trying to understand this fiscal note. Can you just clarify it for me? When it says this bill increases a mandated appropriation in FY 2027 through FY 2029, are these the amounts broken down? I'm just trying to make sure I understand the costs.
Again, this is not my area, and I wish I could answer the question, and I apologize for not being able to.
Okay. We got a couple budget questions here. Okay, just let's get the questions on the table. Okay, here, why don't we do this? Because there's a few questions here. So we've got 325 on the other side. We've now got 311. Let's just real quickly, let's just go back and let's see if we can get some more bills and maybe leave these two bills, come back and see where we are. So, okay, we were on the front page of voting list number 10, Senate Bill 54 from Senator Lamb. April, why don't you refresh the memory of the committee what Senate Bill 54 does?
All right. Senate Bill 54, State Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners, Grounds for Disciplinary Action, Restrictions. This bill prohibits the State Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners from suspending or revoking a license to practice veterinary medicine in the state, reprimanding or censuring a licensee, or placing a licensee on probation solely on the basis of the licensee discussing or recommending the use of cannabis or a product that contains cannabidiol on an animal for potential therapeutic effect or health supplementation purposes. There are no amendments.
Okay, no amendments. Recall this testimony. This was a bill. I don't know that anybody was really opposed to the bill. Any questions about the bill? Does anybody recall the bill with the veterinarians? And I think you described it. Okay. I'll move the bill favorable.
Second.
Second from the vice chair. Okay. I don't think there was any opposition. All in favor of bill? Senate Bill 54, all opposed, motion carries. Let's go to Senator Sidnor, another Baltimore County School Board kind of issue. Senate Bill 98, Stacy.
Okay. Senate Bill 98, Baltimore County School Board Nominating Commission membership alterations. This bill adds 2 members to the Baltimore County School Board Nominating Commission, one appointed by the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Local 3 Council 434, and one appointed by the citizen of a member appointed by the Baltimore County Chamber of Commerce with a member appointed by the Greater Baltimore County Chamber of Commerce, the former successor organization, and 2 specifies that the initial member appointed by the Greater Baltimore County Chamber of Commerce must serve the remainder of the term of the member appointed by the Baltimore County Chamber of Commerce before terminating as specified. Lastly, the bill staggers members' terms by specifying members whose terms must terminate at the end of September 30th, 2028, and other members whose terms must terminate at the end of September 30th, 2030. There were no amendments, there's no opposition, and there was a local letter received.
Okay, Mr. Baltimore County Senator Brooks moves favorable, second from Senator Harris. Okay, discussion, all in favor of Senate Bill 98, clean, raise your hand. All opposed? Anybody opposed? No? Bill carries. Okay, let's go to the next page. Senator Brooks' bill, Senate Bill 165.
Senate Bill 165, Environment On-Site Wastewater Systems Requirements for Inspection and Pumping Services and Implementation Dates. This bill requires a landlord of property that is served by an on-site wastewater system or more commonly known as the septic system, but July 1st, 2028, and before each new tenant occupies the property, to ensure that the septic system has been inspected and pumped out. Beginning July 1st, 2028, the bill also requires a contract for the sale of real property with a septic system to include a provision requiring, as a condition of the sale, that the purchaser ensure that the system has been inspected and pumped out. The bill does not limit a mortgage company or financial institution from requiring a septic system inspection as part of a contract terms for the sale or transfer of real property. Furthermore, the bill, 1, requires the Department of the Environment to adopt regulations related to the State Board of Wastewater Professionals by July 1st, 2027 instead of July 1st, 2025, and 2, delays from July 1st, 2026 to July 1st, 2028, the date by which an individual who provides on-site wastewater services must be licensed by the board. There is an amendment in your bill packet from Senator Brooks. The voting packet, it's amendments on page 4, reprint starts on page 5. The amendment simply clarifies that provisions referencing the department are referring to the Department of the Environment.
Okay, Senator Brooks. Okay, Senator Brooks moves his amendment. Senator Harris, second. Senate Bill 165. Any discussion on the Brooks amendment? Okay. All in favor of the Brooks amendment, raise your hand. All opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Senate Bill 165 as amended is in front of us. Oh. Question, Senator Carrozza?
The House cross-file, HB 146, is that, was there an amendment? Was the Adams amendment offered and included, or I'm just trying to play it?
The Adams amendment has not been offered on this bill. And I will just add that the Department of the Environment is in opposition to that amendment.
Okay, we're back on Senate Bill 165 as amended. We had a motion favorable on the bill as amended. Oh, I apologize. Senator Hester.
There were some other questions that had been asked, Senator, about by the Maryland Association of Wastewater Professionals, MALPA, whatever, but they had asked about consolidating the pump out with inspection and allowing, and some questions about how to specify the pumping out of the bats and property sold for redevelopment. Were any of those addressed?
They have not been addressed.
Okay. Well, additional questions before we take the bill up. Senator Hester, do you want to just clarify a little bit more on concern that you just raised, just so we have?
I don't know. I was kind of hoping that some of these questions would have been answered. I think it was there were some concerns about how they were going to specify the pumping out of the septic system with the best available technology. So I just.
Yes, E feels as though that they could handle that in regulations because those were different septics.
And how did they feel about consolidating the pump out with the inspection? That would save money, I think.
Okay. If you want, I could just hold it and I can get that answer for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure, and there were three. So
Drew's here.
Yeah.
Okay. We do have someone here. Drew is here, Mr. Chair.
From where?
Drew?
Well, no, that's.
Oh, okay. Got it.
All right. Okay, here, let's just hold this. Let's get some.
Okay.
Why don't you put it out? What were the other, you said you had 3 questions?
The 3 questions were about consolidating the pump out with the inspection. That was the first one. The second one was allowing the State Board of On-Site Wastewater Professionals to specify how to address the pumping of the bats. And the third related to how properties being sold for redevelopment would be handled when the on-site wastewater system was going to be abandoned.
Okay, here, let's hold the bill. Let's get some answers to Senator Hester's question, okay? Okay, in the meantime, We've got Senator Augustine back here. Let's go back to the Senate Bill 325, and then we also have gotten a DLS person to come down here and answer some questions on the or is en route potentially to answer some questions on the the blueprint bill. So, okay, Senator Augustine, why don't you get up to the podium like your old, back in your old committee here, because we had some questions and we just thought, as the sponsor, you might be able to assist here to some extent. So, okay. Okay. So let's try to rehash where we, let's hold on one second. Okay, we're talking about, where were the outstanding, I'm trying to refresh my memory on where were the key issues? It was, we had talked about the impact fees, we talked about the sequencing. Who wants to throw a couple questions out for Senator Augustine? Those of you who still have some concerns. Senator Watson?
Good to see you back at EEE, Senator Augustine. A lot of the issues that we were discussing center around impact fees and phase development, and when something is complete, when can the fees then be received by the counties. And what we were told by Chuck is that some phases could be 200 homes. Phases can be very large in size. And depending on what jurisdiction, it may take 3, maybe 5 years to develop a phase that large. Right. Does that mean that the county cannot receive the impact fees for infrastructure and other things until that entire phase is complete? And I think Chuck also mentioned that you can't get an impact fee until someone has physically moved in. So can you help me understand, really when would the fees be collected and why we're talking about pushing the fees back anyway?
Okay, so first of all, I want to start from the reason, like you said, like the reason we're doing this. The rationale is that we are in a high cost for housing state. Sorry. The purpose in going back to this whole bill is the two parts. The first part is to provide certainty for folks to be able to know that if they've got a project that they're going to be able to build it. That reduces your cost of money if you have confidence and you're able to build that in. The second part on the impact fees is the same thing. We're trying to make it cheaper to build to build property, build homes, build residential stuff in our state. Because what happens is that if you're able to move the fees closer to when the property is going to be delivered, when you move it closer to that, there's a carrying cost associated with that, $5,000, $6,000 a unit, that we can reduce that cost of building the unit. And the point of it is that the impact fees, significantly the money for the impact fees are for things that are needed after that's there. Like a school, like you have a school, you need a school. Well, you don't need a school until you actually have the people, until it gets built up, it starts to happen. Then that's when you will need those additional impact fees, not in the beginning. The intent is not to make it challenging for the locality to be able to meet the current need. It's moving the dollars for the impact fee closer to when they actually are needed to be activated for the locality.
So when can the county get the impact fees? When the phase is complete?
So I think that the committee adopted an amendment that says that it's Oh, well, there was it
proposed
presented?
amendment would allow them to collect it as early as the point when they, as a precondition to getting that final inspection. So that's, the final inspection before you get the certificate of occupancy to start bringing people in.
Right. So
For an entire phase.
correct.
So that could be years.
No, no, because you would only, you get it when, if someone has an intent to build. First of all, let's just start from the position that we want people to build, right?
Yes.
I mean, and they want to build too. Like, they're not going to sit on it. They're going to get paid once they're actually able to bring these things online. They don't have an incentive to not bring it online. Like, there's just not an incentive for that. So they're going to move as quickly as they can to get that thing online. There's not an incentive to like not do that. And the intent is to say that we're going to move it closer to when it's delivered in order to bring down the costs of the units. And so now we've said, okay, let's do that at final inspection, or once they've applied for the final inspection, so it's getting closer to when the unit will be delivered.
So the impact fees are used for more than just schools, right?
Yeah.
Describe for me the uses of impact fees.
There's a variety of infrastructure. There could be.
Related to infrastructure.
Potentially, yeah, it
So
could.
my challenge is, even up 301 Prince George's County, where we know regionally, we lead the region in affordable housing availability. That we do know. And so if that's the case, then it begs the question is, what are we doing wrong if we are beating everybody else in providing housing, number one. Number two is when we have a multi-year project like I do right on 301 that they've been building for a couple years now, we've had to deal with the congestion, we've had to deal with the cranes and the trucks and all of these kinds of things, which our residents say are impacts to the infrastructure just to support the building of it. The definition provided by Chuck is you really can't technically have an impact until somebody has moved in, but you still have increased traffic, you have folks going there looking at the property and all those kinds of things. So I'm trying to reconcile, is there a way where we can get maybe a portion of the impact fees up front and then delay the rest until we get closer to that UNO possibility? I just think that it's a problem to wait a long period of time before the county gets an impact fee to do what they think needs to be done with respect to infrastructure.
Here's the thing. So the opposite is what happens, though, right? So the opposite is, and we are competing. Like, let's just be clear, right? This is an attempt to try to make us more competitive also with the cost of our housing. So what's happening right now is that folks are collecting fees and then they're sitting on it. I'm talking about the counties. I'm talking about others. When there's this whole process that occurs, when now think about you're beholden, you're waiting for someone to give you a date for an inspection. You're waiting, but your money is already in their hands and they're not doing anything with it because they're not going to build it until they're sure that they're not going to use that dollars until they know that the thing that's going to impact it is going to happen. In other words, they're collecting the money and just sitting on it because they can't do anything with it until the project comes along. And that's the challenge that we have in the way that we're currently set up. So that makes us uncompetitive with Delaware, with Virginia, where they're not doing that. And those are dollars that we're competing for, and we're making ourselves cost more money in the process, $5,000 to $6,000 per unit. And folks are sitting on it. That's the reason.
But we still get that $5,000 or $6,000 when the unit is complete.
Because we get it at the end when they would actually use it. That's the point.
No, we're getting it at the end when the developers can get that money after selling the property, right?
No, they still have to deliver it.
Right.
It's just that it's being delivered much closer to their payout date. It's still before it, right? But it's a lot closer.
So the difference is they don't have to put the money up front.
And have it sit for as long.
They're selling the property. They will have that property, and now they're able to pay without possibly having to get a loan up front.
Well,
because
absolutely.
Financial
That's
issues, right?
that's a part of it, right? They
Okay.
don't have those same carrying costs, but they are now waiting in front of at
Right.
the very beginning of the process, which does take a long time. And that's part of the point. Part of the point is this is taking such a long period of time from there. Now, moving the money closer to when the money would actually be needed, would actually be used
Got it.
by the locality.
Got it.
That's the point.
Thank you, Senator Augustine.
Yeah, of course.
I missed your fervor on this committee.
You know I'm always going to bring fervor.
Okay, Senator Hester, you had a question?
I was just trying to understand, it seemed from what MML was saying, was that most of what they use the impact fees for was for traffic safety improvements.
Excuse me? They said that they're using it for what?
Traffic safety improvements.
Right.
So like
and again, so I will say again, Senator, right? If that is the case, right, the actual, listen, I'm not disputing. Nobody likes the time
That
when
wasn't
things.
actually my question, though.
I'm going to answer. Oh, that was in all of it?
That was, I was just saying that's what they said.
Oh.
My question was.
Well, I wanted to answer that.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Okay, just,
I didn't.
let's
I don't know what the question was, but
let's
sure.
restart. What's the question?
I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Senator.
So, the question is, it seems like what we heard is that it went from all of the fees being paid at the front to now all of the fees being paid near the end. And is there some kind of balance that might be more of like, instead of having the pendulum swing completely to the other end, the 50-50 like compromise was proffered? And I was curious if you had thought about that.
I had thought about that. And that's the thing that I was going to say when I was referring to the initial premise about what they were going to spend the dollars on. I apologize, but that's where I was trying to say, Senator, that those things, those road improvements and those things that they would be spent on, as I shared with Senator Watson, you don't do those until the product is delivered. And so what I'm trying to say is that getting the dollars earlier and allowing the counties, because the counties or the municipalities want to, they then are able to have those kind of carrying costs. It's just they're not spending the dollars. They're holding the dollars. Now, let me just back up, like the part of the reason why we didn't say that the dollars would be delivered, we're trying to get them as close to when the things get delivered as possible. But we do want to make sure, we know that impact fees are important, and we want to make sure that if there's going to be an impact, that we have money in the project to mitigate those impacts once they come online. And so we do want to make sure that those things are paid before, like, the developer is able to cash out. We don't want to get into a situation where, like, the developer cashes out and then they don't do the impact fee. That's the reason for saying, yes, it should be done, before they're able to cash out, but it should be done closer to when it will actually be used by the entity, meaning like the municipality or the county or something like that.
If there is a road safety issue,
yeah,
that the county will have enough time to get it done between that fourth phase and when the people actually move in? Because I'm just picturing this huge community, and all of a sudden everybody's moving in, and then they're out in the front widening the road, and it's pissing everybody off.
Okay, so part of, at least in Prince George's County, and a part of when these projects occur and when they get approved and everything else, usually a part of the infrastructure improvements and things are a part of that approval process, and it's actually the developer, it's not actually the county, that is really the ones that are doing those road improvements and stuff like that. They are the ones who are required to do those things. Now, it is true for the schools and stuff like that. That does become a part of the pot for the schools and everything else, but not like when you were building a when you're building a new development or something like that, there are requirements that say, oh, no, you got to have the entrances this way. You've got to have additional lanes and stuff like that. I mean, all of that is a part of that process, but the developers are the ones that pay for that. It's not the county. It's not.
Any additional questions for Senator Augustine, sponsor on 325? Sure.
So, and I hear you. The developer usually takes care of lights and intersections and all those kinds of things,
know that.
right? Yes, I do, Senator Augustine. However, they're only responsible for a certain distance from their property. So, for the main threat, think of 301. It goes from 2 lanes to 4 lanes to 2 lanes to 4 lanes, and it does like this because each development they expand and upgrade just their section, which may be a half mile before and a half mile after on their side. And so there's this constant merging. And the calls that I get are, why can't we have a consistent widening of the roads? Now, if the impact fees could be used to do that, so we could have 3 lanes going from, 301 all the way up to 97, that's a different traffic flow. And this is what I deal with every day just to come here, but it does do that. And so my question is, we could not address that type of situation. I'm being specific about that because you're right. There is whatever goes into the contract, the builder is responsible for.
That's what they do.
But again, they're only responsible for their property and what's in their contract. And it's not really addressing the other unintended
Senator, I agree with you. That is a planning issue that we have in our county, like in the way that we've planned that, because 301, as we know, is a state road, which, by the way, because I've advocated for us, I've done that. Well, yeah, I've done that, where I've advocated for us to get a widening project for us, more consistent widening project for us on 301 in the stretch that you're talking about. I've done that through the CTP, but that's where that goes. I mean, it goes at that level, that system planning level, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's not the impact fees. The impact fees are saying, okay, now we got this new beautiful neighborhood, which you have, and we need to have those dollars, right, potentially for a school to support it. And that's really more of what it's talking about than it is talking about those other things.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, because now you're in the Budget and Tax Committee, I understand that you're also the expert on blueprint funding. Is that accurate, or am I misrepresenting?
Yeah, you're misrepresenting that. Yeah.
Do we have anybody from D?
So we do. Rachel Heiss, Executive Director of AIB, is here. She used to do lots of fiscal things.
Okay.
And then we have some analysts who are online and available, but they're not in the office, so we're covered with some questions.
Okay, Rachel, why don't you take a seat there? Do people feel like they have enough information on the Augustine bill, or do we need to? Okay, I'll just, in the interest of just maybe rolling it, here. We're going to release you, Senator Augustine. Thank you for coming down. Let's take Ms. Heiss is here. There were some outstanding questions on budget issues on the blueprint.
Hi.
Can we just rehash who had some questions on blueprint? And I just let's get those on the table as well. And Senator Hester, what about you?
I just feel like she's actually no longer part of Budget and Tax, and she's with the AIB, and it's just.
Well, she may be able to answer the questions that were on the table. Let's test it. Senator Watson, why don't you ask Rachel budget tax kind of questions?
So when we did the blueprint last year, there was 2 pieces. There was the policy piece handled by this body, and then there was the budget piece. And then it also looks like there's a fiscal note that is at an increased cost. Mm-hmm. And so just from what I've heard, there is differences of opinion with the money that we've spent so far, that we've seen the results we expected to see. And so now we're actually increasing the amount of money, but that part is not going to budget and tax. And I just wanted to know why.
So I cannot speak to that. That is a Senate, that's a legislative
discussion about how you're assigning bills. I can answer questions about the provision in the AIB bill that is resulting in the fiscal note, if that's helpful. So last year, the AIB, the Governor's Office for Children, was asked by the General Assembly to look at the Neighborhood Indicators of Poverty study and to submit a report on potential different ways of counting low-income students from low-income families for the compensatory education formula. And then that report was submitted to AIB, and AIB was asked to make a recommendation to the General Assembly about next steps. When that report was submitted to the AIB, it did not make a recommendation. It had a number of alternatives, and all of them resulted in most LEAs receiving less funds than they currently receive under the compensatory education formula, because there is a hold harmless that has been in the law since, I believe, 2016. And so when the AIB looked at that report, their recommendation was not to implement any of the options and to maintain the hold harmless for at least one more year. And so the bill that is before you from the AIB proposes to extend the hold harmless that is in current law of the blueprint for one more year. And we actually proposed 2 years, but the bill as drafted just has the 1 year. But to allow LEAs to not lose funds for the most part, and to provide more time to consider if there is a more accurate way of counting low-income students.
So where does the escalation in cost come from?
So the cost comes from essentially by maintaining the hold harmless, you're keeping the LEAs, you're holding them harmless from losing funds from a lower count of low-income students.
Got it.
Under a different way of counting.
Got it. All right. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Okay, additional questions? Yes, Senator Carrozza.
Thank you, and I appreciate, Rachel, that explanation, and I just kind of, as one who has been consistent about the impact on our locals, so I just want to make sure I understood what you said. The funding levels in SB 311 are required in order to hold our locals at the levels that they're expecting?
Yes.
Is that?
Exactly. That they've been receiving in prior years. Exactly.
Okay, additional questions for Ms. Heiss? Okay, thank you for coming in.
Sure.
Okay, so we got some input from Senator Augustine, from Rachel Heiss. Let's go back to the list. We left it at, we had passed Brooks Bill 165. Let's just go to Senate Bill 198 real quick, Prince George's County Community College bill from Senator Alonzo Washington. Senate Bill 198 on list number 10. Second page, too. Okay. Stacy, Senate Bill 198 from Senator Washington. A. Washington.
Senate Bill 198, Prince George's Community College Aerospace Technology Studies Program. The bill requires the Board of Community College Trustees for Prince George's County, in consultation with the Maryland Higher Education Commission, the Maryland Department of Commerce, and the Prince George's County Economic Development Corporation, to establish an aerospace technology studies program at the Prince George's Community College, subject to approval by MHEC by December 15, 26, and each December 15 thereafter. Until the program has been established, the Board of Trustees must submit a report to MHEC, the Prince George's County Executive, the Maryland Aerospace Technology Commission, and the General Assembly on the status of establishing the program. There is amendments being offered by Senator A. Washington. Those are on page 10 of your packet. And this amendment essentially strikes the bill and requires the Prince George's Community College to conduct a comprehensive feasibility study and program designed to assess and establish an aerospace systems technology workforce training program and an aviation systems technology workforce training program. Prince George's Community College must submit a report to this committee and the Ways and Means Committee on or before December 1, 2027 on the results of the study. The bill further requires the governor to include $100,000 in the fiscal 28 budget for the study. There is a local letter that agreed to the bill as amended.
Okay, we have a local Prince George's matter. Anybody from Prince George's want to weigh in on this? Study bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Prince George's delegation met on this last night, recognizing that NASA Goddard is in Prince George's County in Greenbelt in Senator Washington's area, and he's done a lot of work on this issue. We think this is a good bill.
Okay. Okay, Senator Watson moves the Washington amendments. Is there a second from Senator Harris? All in favor of the Washington amendments, raise your hand. All opposed, those amendments carry. Senate Bill 198 as amended is in front of us. Okay, I have a motion from Senator Watson, second from Senator Harris. All in favor of Senate Bill 198 as amended, raise your hand. Okay, that motion carries. Okay, Senate Bill 292, Stacy, Senator Bailey, another local county bill.
Senate Bill 292, County Boards of Education, Student Transportation Sunset Repeal. This bill repeals the sunset provisions of Chapters 197 and 198 of 2021, which authorizes a County Board of Education to provide transportation for specified public school students and for school using a vehicle other than a Type 1 or Type 2 school vehicle when a school vehicle cannot reasonably be provided. Chapters 197 and 198 also require the Maryland State Department of Education to consult with county boards of education and the Motor Vehicle Administration to adopt regulations establishing minimum vehicle driver safety standards for alternate school transportation and broaden the definition of non-public school with respect to the transportation of students to mean any elementary or secondary school in the state that is not part of the public elementary and secondary education system. Two amendments have been offered, one from Senator Bailey and one from Senator Watson. I'm going to ask to consider Senator Bailey's first because it impacts how Senator Watson's amendment works. Senator Bailey's amendment you can find on page 21, the reprint on page 23. This amendment requires MSDE, in consultation with local school systems and the MVA, to review regulations regarding alternate student transportation that were adopted under Chapters 197 and 198. The review needs to include review of the requirements for vehicle operators, types of vehicles and the number of passengers, whether the drivers of alternate vehicles adequately ensure drivers are prepared for transporting public school students, and regulations adopted by the Public Service Commission for rideshare drivers, and whether regulations adopted by MSDE can be brought into alignment with PSC regulations without sacrificing student safety.
Okay, how does this interplay with the, just give us a little more, how does this interplay
Well,
with the
if the
Watson
committee adopts the amendments from Senator Bailey, then the amendments for Senator Watson kind of work in concert with that.
Okay. Well, you move in favor on the Bailey amendment first? Okay.
Well, yours
Okay, is there a
work in
motion on the
concert with
Bailey
his.
amendment? Okay, we had a motion from Senator Watson on the Bailey amendment, second from Senator Harris. All in favor of the Bailey amendment, raise your hand. All opposed. Now we will take up the Watson amendment. Is the
Okay.
Watson amendment, is there a motion on the Watson amendment?
Wait, so that's on page 25.
Oh, page 25, sorry.
So this amendment would authorize a county board of education to contract with a transportation network company that does not meet certain standards adopted by MSDE and regulation to transport not more than 2 students at the same time if the driver, 1, meets requirements established by the PSC for transportation network company drivers, 2, completes a background check and a fingerprint-based state and national criminal history records check, because PSC regulations do not require rideshare drivers to have fingerprint-based national and criminal history records checks, so that's an additional requirement. The driver uses a vehicle that can transport no more than 10 individuals at the same time, including the driver, and any other requirements established by the contracting county board. These provisions terminate if MSDE adopts regulations following the regulatory review from Senator Bailey's amendment, because they would consider making more permanent these rideshare provisions.
Question about one provision.
Thank you. I actually have a bunch of, I was just going to.
Okay, here.
Okay, on page 26 in the packet, page 2 of 6 of the Watson Amendment, not to be totally myopic here, but could you explain the in Montgomery County part?
That's existing law. So,
Thank you. So the underline, okay.
It's just, I'm importing the entire
Thank you.
section from existing law, and that's why it's underlined.
Thank you. That was confusing. Appreciate it.
Additional questions about the Watson Amendment? Was there a motion on the favorable on the Watson Amendment? Okay. Second from Senator Harris. Discussion? Okay, all in favor of the Watson Amendment, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries. We have the Watson and Bailey amendments now on Senate Bill 292. Okay, 292 as amended has been moved favorable by Senator Harris. Is there a second? Senator Watson? Or you want a second? Okay. Senate Bill 292, I think we're getting a little tired here. Senate Bill 292 as amended. All in favor, Senate Bill 292 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed, that carries. Okay, we're back to the AIB. Okay, we are on 311. Okay, does anybody here want to move the amendments on Senate Bill 311? Okay, Senator Harris moves the amendments. Vice Chair seconds. All in favor of the amendments to 311, raise your hand. All opposed. Do we have opposition or no vote? Okay, the ayes do carry it. We had a majority. Okay, so amendments on 311 have been adopted. We now have Senate Bill 311 as amended. We have a favorable from the Vice Chair, second from Senator Harris. Discussion. Senate Bill 311 as amended is in front of us. Lemuria, let's take a roll call on this one.
All right, Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Hester? Okay, Senator Hester abstains. Senator Gallion? No. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson? Yes. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar? Senator Attar, yes. Senator Harris? Senator Harris, yes. Senator Brooks? Yes. Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza?
Yes.
Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Simonaire? No. Senator Simonaire, no. And Senator Feldman?
I vote aye. The motion carries on Senate Bill 311. Okay, now let's go back to Senate Bill 325 on the Augustine bill that we had some discussion about. Anybody want to move the Augustine amendments in Senate Bill 325? Senator, yes?
Because we've gone back and forth on this bill, are the amendments for the Augustine bill, what is that split on the impact fees?
It's 100% cannot be, it delays all the collection of all the impact fees until at the earliest, the point of scheduling the final inspection.
So going back to Senator Hester's point, we went from having a lot of those up front to now back-ended. And there's not anything on the floor to talk about like a 50-50.
Well, we don't have anything in front of us, so I don't know what to say. I mean, we don't have an amendment.
What's that?
We don't have an amendment in writing. I mean, I know that this, I think on a bill like this, I don't think concept amendments, I mean, if you, no. Okay, well, there's always floor, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry. Are we going to vote tomorrow? Or are we going to come back on?
Well, I don't know, it depends, a little bit depends on whether we finish this list tonight. I mean,
Understood.
yeah. Okay, well, and there's always the floor. People can offer amendments on the floor. Right now, did we have an amendment, a motion on the Augustine amendments? Okay, we had a motion from Senator Harris, a second from Senator Brooks. Let's raise your hand if you support the Augustine amendments on the Augustine bill. Okay, I'm looking around the horn. I see Hester, Feldman, Watson, Kagan, Attar, Harris, Brooks. All opposed? Okay. The amendment carries. We now have Senate Bill 325 as amended before the committee. Is there a motion? Okay, Senator Harris moves the bill as amended, 325, second from Senator Brooks. Memoria, let's do a roll call.
All right. Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Gallion? No. Senator Gallion, no. Senator Watson? Yes. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar? Senator Attar, yes. Senator Harris? Senator Harris, yes. Senator Brooks? Yes. Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza? No. Senator Carozza, no. Senator Simonaire? Yes. Senator Simonaire, yes. And Senator Feldman?
Yes, motion carries. Okay, let's go back, and if we finish the list, then we don't have to come back tomorrow, and we'll be done for the week. Senate Bill 423, I understand that there's an amendment that may address some of the confusion we had when we took up this bill last time. But April, why don't you give us some clarification on the Kramer bill, Senate Bill 423.
Okay. Senate Bill 423, research facilities and testing facilities that use animals, prohibitions and adoption requirements, Animal Research Modernization and Best Practices Act of 2026. This bill establishes provisions regarding devocalization surgery and euthanasia with respect to dogs and cats that are applicable to a research facility or testing facility in the state that uses live vertebrate animals. Bill also establishes provisions applicable to testing facilities in the state that use live vertebrate animals regarding the use of traditional animal test methods and alternative test methods. In addition, the bill establishes penalties and requires specified reporting. There are amendments in your voting packet. So these amendments are starting on page 52. The reprint starts on page 54. Amendment is offered by Senator Kramer. So as drafted, the bill exempts biomedical research from the limitations on the use of traditional animal test methods. The amendment expands this exemption to cover medical research more broadly. So that gets at this question of vaccine ingredients and things like this. Basically, under this amendment, if it is related to any sort of medical research, it's exempt from the provisions of the bill dealing with the restrictions on traditional animal testing. The amendments also update the euthanasia guidelines in accordance with the recommendations of the Maryland Veterinary Medical Association, alter the reporting deadlines to coincide with deadlines for a certain federal report. So these are due on December 1st of the year and cover the previous fiscal year. Clarify that the aggregated report posted to the public by the Department of Agriculture should be anonymized and that reports are not subject to disclosure under the Public Information Act. Again, this was amendment recommended by the Veterinary Association. And clarify that only facilities that use or keep dogs or cats are required to make reporting regarding adoptions.
Okay, so I think the question was like, where are some of our research institutions like Hopkins, okay, with the current posture of the bill, are they okay with this bill or they're still opposed, or what kind of clarity can you give us? I think that was one of the issues.
My understanding from the email discussions that I have been having with Hopkins, they believe they are were already largely exempt because of most of their research is done under the the university side of things, but they were concerned a little bit about some of their medical research that happens more through the hospital side of things. The broader medical exemption makes them more comfortable. They are still concerned about a sort of slippery slope argument of we do it now for this, subset of institutions. Will this carry on in future years? But
okay. Okay, so we heard that explanation for, everybody can interpret it, concerned about slippery slope, but that said, they're not opposed to the bill. Senator Gallion?
So I was just rereading the Animal Health Institute's testimony, and they said that, well, everybody wants to dramatically reduce animal testing. I think everybody agrees on that. But they say there is currently no full replacement for animal models in biomedical research, and human and dog or an animal and human drug and biologics development. Do the amendments address that? So they would remove their opposition and that would no longer be the case, or?
I mean, I have not reached out to them, but I will say the amendments broadly exempt all medical research, whether it's for humans or animals.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions for April? Okay, we have the Kramer amendments, this broadening out of the exemption, broadening amendment. Would anybody like to move that amendment? Okay, Senator Harris moves the Kramer amendment. Vice Chair seconds it. Everybody in front of us, we have the Kramer broadening exemption amendment. All in favor of the Kramer amendment, raise your hand. All opposed? That amendment carries. We now have Senate Bill 423 with that amendment. Okay, Senator Harris moves the bill 423 as amended. Second from the Vice Chair. Okay, this is another one. Let's do a roll call.
All right, Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Gallion? Yes. Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Watson? Yes. Senator Watson, yes. Senator Attar? Senator Attar, yes. Senator Harris? Senator Harris, yes. Senator Brooks? Yes. Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carozza? Yes. Senator Carozza, yes. Senator Simonier? Yes. Senator Simonier, yes. And Senator Feldman?
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Let's go down to Senate Bill 535. Stacy?
Okay. Could try an easy one for a change. Senate Bill 535, County Boards of Library Trustees Membership Student Member. This bill authorizes a county board of library trustees to provide for the selection of a student member. The bill also establishes the qualifications, term of office, and voting rights of the student member if selected. No amendments have been offered. Some were suggested. I asked Senator King. She wasn't opposed to them, but she did not offer them. But there was no opposition.
Okay, no amendments, no opposition, Bill. Any questions? Senator Harris moves Senate Bill 535 clean. Second from Senator Carozza. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of Senate Bill 535, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries. Stacy, back to you on Senate Bill 646.
Okay. Senate Bill 646, Public School Systems Contracts Prohibited Provisions. This bill prohibits specified provisions from being included in a public school system contract, except as required by state or federal law. If a public school system contract contains one of the specified provisions, the provision is void and the contract is enforceable as if it did not contain the provision. A public school system contract that contains one of the specified provisions must be governed by and construed in accordance with state law, notwithstanding any term or condition to the contrary in the contract. The bill applies only prospectively and does not apply to a public school system contract executed before the effective date of the bill or to renewals or extensions of such contracts. There is one amendment in your package on page 63 offered by Senator King, and this amendment exempts collective bargaining agreements from the provision.
Okay, questions from Senator Attar for Stacy?
See the Baltimore Teachers Union's opposition, but does that amendment satisfy it? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Senator Carozza.
Mr. Chair, I also, and I'm trying to find it, I thought that the superintendents were favorable with amendments. Is that there?
This is
That's
their
there.
amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, anybody want to move the King Amendment? Senator Harris, second on the Vice Chair. All in favor of the King Amendment, raise your hand. All opposed, King Amendment carries. Senate Bill 646 as amended. Okay, Senator Harris moves the bill. Is there a second? Second from Senator Brooks. Senate Bill 646 as amended. All in favor? Raise your hand. All opposed? That motion carries. Senate Bill 670, Senator Kagan bill. Stacy?
Senate Bill 670, Election Law, Local Board of Election Employees, Authority at Polling Places. This bill provides a local board of elections employee with authority at a polling place similar to the authority of election judges, including by authorizing a local board of elections employee while serving in a polling place to 1, keep the peace, and 2, order the arrest of any person who breaches the peace, breaches any provision of the election law article, or interferes with the work of election judges. A police officer who is on duty at a polling place must obey the order of a local board employee and is fully protected in making any arrest under such an order if the acting pursuant to a valid warrant. The bill also provides a local board employee authority to protect the rights of and manage the access and conduct of challengers and watchers in the polling place, similar to the authority of election judges. There is one amendment offered by Senator Kagan. It begins on page 64 with the reprint on page 67. So this amendment clarifies that the types of persons that may designate an accredited challenger or watcher and expands the types of locations that an accredited or challenger watcher may observe to include early voting centers and canvassing locations. It clarifies that activities an accredited watcher or challenger do while observing. It requires a designating person to submit a copy of a specified certificate to the appropriate local board of elections before an accredited challenger or watcher may enter into a voting room or a canvassing room. It provides that the state administrator or the state administrator's designee or an election director or the election director's designee has the authority to keep peace or order and arrest while in a polling place. And it provides that a local election director, instead of a local board employee, has the authority to protect certain rights, deny admission of, and eject certain challengers and watchers from polling places under certain circumstances.
Kagan, you want to elaborate on the amendment?
Sure, briefly. This bill was requested by MAO, the Maryland Association of Election Officials, which is from all 24 of our counties. And they, in these divisive times, they want to make sure they've got enough people with the authority to keep the peace in the polling places and early voting centers.
Okay. You move your amendment?
I would move the amendment.
Okay, Senator Kagan moves her amendment, second from Senator Harris. Any further discussion on the Kagan amendment? Okay, yes, Senator Carrozza.
So I'm trying to understand, so your amendments are expanding now which local election board staff are covered under this now?
Yes. So currently, only the there's limitations as to who in the polling place would have the capacity to enforce and keep the peace. And when the election judges are busy, they don't have the capacity to then pull away from the long line or the person with disabilities. Or so it's allowing. We also allow Mr. Demarinis, the administrator, or his designee, their designee, to deputize someone. Again, this is about keeping the peace in our polling places and early voting centers.
No, and I understand that. So we all have the same shared goal.
Yes.
My concern is that it looks like we're putting some county employees, other employees in this, I'm looking at Mako's testimony, in a more direct enforcement role. And, Mako raises the point, and I haven't talked to each one of my 3 counties to know if there's a better way to do this in coordination with law enforcement to have clear operational protocols. So I'm a little concerned about, we all have we have the same shared goal of keeping our election staff safe, but I'm not sure this is the vehicle when, at least in my counties, I think we would try to work out some type of coordination with public safety.
So they're not directly actually doing the arrest. You can tell a law enforcement agent that this person is disrupting the peace or they've done something contrary to a violation, and then they tell the law enforcement officer, this person is breaching the peace, you need to remove them from the polling place. It's instead of just an election judge, it's giving, the amendment actually narrows it slightly. Instead of a local board employee, which there were concerns that encompasses too many people in a polling place, it was brought down to the election director. And the election director is the person in the county who is responsible for running the elections. So actually, the amendment narrows it down from what was broader in the originally bill. So if the election director is in a polling place and they notice this disruption, they can go to law enforcement and say, hey, can you, bring the peace back to this polling place? And then the law enforcement officer is the one that takes charge. It's not the actual employees that are doing any
And
sort
we're
of.
saying that the reason we actually need a statute for that is because they don't have the authority.
Correct.
If they see something going on, to go to law enforcement to notify them?
Correct, because current law says election judges only have that authority in a polling place.
So
In a
Senator
polling
Cardoza,
place.
if you would go to page 68 at the very top, and you'll see the current law is an election judge for that polling place. And as I said, that person could be really busy helping voters. So as amended, it would be the state administrator or the state administrator's designee, and then the local election director, as Stacy said, or that person's designee. So just someone who's not in the weeds dealing with voters, who has the capacity to help keep the peace.
And you're saying the amendment narrowed it from
From the
all?
very broad employees just down to the election director or the election director's designee. So
Okay, all
people with more authority in
All
that
right, thank you for the
circumstance.
clarification.
Senator Sumner?
Yeah, and again, I like the goal. So just some clarifying. Stacy, you said that the individual can't tell the person, the police officer, to arrest them. It would be up to them. But I'm looking at the language in 10307-1A2. That's the original language in the bill. And it says the local, I know this has changed, but the person has the authority to order the arrest of any person.
Right.
Does that give discretion to the police officer?
I don't think so. I think if they're disrupting the peace and they're being asked by or ordered by the election director to remove the person, then the law enforcement officer would have to do that. Doesn't mean that they have to arrest them or take them to jail. It means they have to remove them from the polling place.
Okay, and just for clarity, so I understand, you're saying remove them, but I see it says they have the authority to order the arrest of any person. It doesn't say the authority to request them to be removed.
It says a police officer making an arrest under the order of an election judge, or a police officer who is on duty at a polling shall obey the order of an election judge for that polling place.
Has this been removed, the 10-3071?
Pardon me?
10-307.1, has that been removed with the amendment?
No. 10-3071 is added under the bill,
Okay.
and anything that's underlined is from the amendment.
Okay, let me just see.
Right, so this is, page 68.
Right, so I'm looking at line 12. It says they have the authority to order
I think,
the arrest.
I'll be honest with you, I think it's a slightly ambiguous, because the first part, A1, says, a police officer who is on duty at a polling place shall obey the order of an election judge for that polling place. Doesn't say arrest. The second one says, a police officer making an arrest under the order. So there's two parts to this here. An order can be given to the law enforcement officer. It doesn't necessarily need to be make an arrest. Maybe it says removal from the polling place. They have to obey that order. But if they're making an arrest under the order of that, then what they're saying is is fully protected in doing as if the police are, So I'm just saying is that it's a little bit ambiguous, but it doesn't necessarily say they have to be making an arrest.
Okay, to me, it says in A1, it says the police officer shall obey the order.
Right.
And then the next section, it says the person has the authority to order their arrest. So I'm just unclear about that, and we'll go on from that. But the other thing is with the amended language, and this applies both for the state and the local, does the designee have to be an employee of the Board of Elections or local election?
I would assume that would be who they would choose, because these are people who have training and understand the election system and have some sort of authority within the local Board of Elections.
Okay, but the language doesn't prohibit me from Jared appointing somebody else that's not an employee?
It doesn't specifically prohibit that, but I'm struggling to think of the circumstance in which they would choose a random person to be the designee in that polling place.
No, well, yeah, no, I don't think it would be random.
retired law enforcement officer that volunteers.
Okay, and then one last question. The designee, is that one or more, or the way the language is? Can they designate more than one, or?
My assumption would be yes, more than one, because there's many, many polling places across the county for which
Right.
an election director might designate someone, an additional person,
That's the
or
way I would have read
across
it.
the state.
And the
yes.
language supports that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I can have one more thing I can add.
Sure, go on.
Senator Simonaire, I can tell you that that we were in touch with the sheriffs and law enforcement folks, and they did not testify on this bill. So they weren't concerned about having their toes stepped on or having a mandate.
And that is existing law. Nothing was changed in that. That was existing law.
Okay, Senator Brooks?
Yes. Are we done with that? Can we go back to Senate Bill 165?
Senate, sure.
Haven't finished.
Well, why don't we finish this bill? Yeah, okay. Okay, so we have the Kagan bill, we have an amendment.
Questions on the amendment?
Any further questions specific to the amendment? Okay, do you want to move your amendment? And then we'll take a vote. Is there a second on the Kagan amendment from Senator Harris? Okay, further discussion about the amendment? Okay. All in favor of this amendment, raise your hand. Okay, all opposed, the amendment carries. We now have Senate Bill 670 as amended before us. Is there a second? Second. Well, we have a motion from the Vice Chair, second from Senator Harris. All in favor of Senate Bill 670 as amended, raise your hand. Okay, all opposed? Okay. Okay, so the bill as amended does carry with some dissenting votes.
What's the vote?
Okay, dissenting votes are, I apologize. Okay, okay, fair enough. Okay, everybody raise your hand in support. Everybody got that? Okay, all opposed would be Senator Carrozza. Okay, Senator Gallion says, so Senator Carrozza and Senator Simonaire is abstaining. Okay, so we have one red and one abstention, and the rest, yes. My apologies. It's getting late, man. We're getting tired here. Okay, guys, how strong are you? We're going to the last page here. Do you think we have it in us to do this and we do not have to come back?
Brooks had a question about something.
Oh, Brooks, you wanted to go back to the bill that we held, your Senate Bill 165?
Yeah. A response from them. And Senator Hester, in reference to your question on consolidating, MDE does not believe that there is a substantial benefit to pump outs occurring simultaneously with an inspection. Some conditions of a failing system might be missed if a pump out were to occur simultaneously. Additionally, simultaneous inspection and pump outs may present homeowners with difficulty in scheduling two different companies at the same time. Yeah. Now, this bill is in the same posture it was last year when we passed it out of this committee, and then you voted for the bill last year. So, but the other two questions. Okay. What was the second question? Because I do have a complete printout from them on addressing those concerns.
Because I think it's getting late. Why don't we're going to be voting a lot next week, okay?
Okay, we can vote.
I didn't want to
Okay.
vote tomorrow because I think, we're doing, so next time
I'll just
we
give
have
it
a
time.
voting session, we'll have this on the bill and Senator Hester can get the questions
right.
to her satisfaction answer. So let's go to that last page and see where we are. Let's start with Senator Guile, Senate Bill 685. Stacy.
Senate Bill 685, Local School Systems, Sexual Abuse and Sexual Misconduct, Response Policy and After Action Review. This bill requires the Maryland State Department of Education to develop a model child sexual abuse and misconduct response policy for use by local school systems to respond to credible allegations of sexual abuse and sexual misconduct. By July 1, 2027, each local school system must adopt a response policy based on the model policy. Each local school system must establish a time-stamped web page on its website that provides information and updates regarding a serious incident, and a local school system must, as soon as feasible, notify parents that it received a credible allegation. On conclusion of a sexual child abuse or sexual misconduct case or serious incident, a local school system must conduct an after-action review within 45 days of the conclusion of the incident. There is an amendment offered by the sponsor, Senator Guile, that begins on page 71 of your packet. This amendment strikes provisions of the bill regarding the local school system webpage and prescriptive after-action review report requirements. It requires the model child sexual abuse and misconduct response policy to include at minimum 4 components: a communications plan, an email and electronic documents retention policy, a requirement to link to a centralized resource platform developed jointly by MSDE and the Maryland Center for School Safety, and an after-action review plan. It pushes back the date the local school systems must adopt a response policy based on this model policy to September 1, 2027 from July 1, 2027, and requires the local school system to post a link to the comprehensive resource platform on its website. I should just say, in general, what happens is it was started as a very prescriptive bill, and after very robust stakeholder engagement, the amendments essentially require MSD to adopt this comprehensive model policy, and then the local school systems will adopt their policy based on that.
Okay, so there was a lot of collaboration to put these amendments together, and I know Senator Giles, legislative director, is actually in the audience if anybody any questions. Okay, any questions on the Guile amendment? Anyone to move the Guile amendment? Senator Harris moves the Guile amendment. Is there a second? Second from Senator Simonaire. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the Guile amendment to 685, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries. Senate Bill 680, oh, I'm sorry, Senator Carrozza.
What is required, and I saw there was informational testimony from the superintendents. What is required of the locals on this, or is this policy being set at the state level?
So again, they were very involved in the writing of these amendments. There were concerns that it was overly prescriptive in the actual bill as it was written. So this takes it back and puts it back with all the people who have knowledge about what to include in a communications plan, who best is to be at the table after an after-action report, all of those kind of things. So that's what this does. It requires MSDE in collaboration with all the stakeholders to develop this policy, and then the locals adopt their policies based on that model policy.
Okay, I didn't actually have the opportunity to call the amendment vote, so there was a motion and a second. Okay, let's redo it. All in favor of the Guile amendment, raise your hand. All opposed, that amendment carries. We now have Senate Bill 685 as amended before the committee. Is there a motion? Okay, Senator Harris moves favorable on 685 as amended. Is there a second? Okay, Senator Brooks, discussion. All in favor of Senate Bill 685 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed, that motion carries unanimously. Senate Bill 697, Stacy.
Senate Bill 697, Election Law, Actions to Influence an Election, Social Media Platform Algorithms and Bots Purchased by Foreign Nationals. This bill establishes, 1, specified circumstances in which a social media platform is presumed to have made an independent expenditure if it knowingly and purposely alters its algorithm to amplify political content beneficial to a clearly identified candidate for a public, state, or local office for the purpose of influencing an election, and 2, establishes penalties for making such an independent expenditure and failing to comply with independent expenditure reporting requirements. The bill also prohibits a foreign national from using a bot to, 1, publish, distribute, or disseminate campaign material in the state to influence an election, or 2, artificially amplify political content to users of an online platform to influence an election. Several amendments have been offered. Beginning on page 76 is the one offered by the sponsor, Senator Feldman. And this expands the definition of social media platform to be more consistent with other state laws. Senator Hester has been asked to be a co-sponsor on this amendment. And I missed this in the testimony, but judiciary recommended changing the term seal to shielded to be more consistent with practice in the judiciary.
Questions for Stacy on the amendments, or for that matter, on the underlying bill? Okay, I'll move the amendments that I've put forward. Is there a second from Senator Harris? Discussion, questions? All in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. All opposed? Okay, the amendment carries. Senate Bill 697 as amended is in front of us. Is there a motion? Okay, Senator Hester moves the bill as amended. Second from the Vice Chair. All in favor, Senate Bill 697 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we're down to the end here. Senator Love bill, Senate Bill 719.
Senate Bill 719, sewage sludge, per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or PFAS, regulation. This bill establishes prohibitions and restrictions related to the land application of sewage sludge that has a total concentration of regulated PFAS equal to or greater than specified levels. The bill establishes related requirements for the Maryland Department of the Environment and sewage sludge generators. In addition, the bill establishes provisions related to the establishment of a pretreatment standard or discharge permit for certain industrial users. Related requirements are established for the department and publicly owned treatment works. A local jurisdiction or a pretreatment authority may set appropriate rates and fees for certain industrial users as specified. There are amendments in your bill packet. The amendments begin on page 77. The reprint begins on page 81. Broadly, the amendments do the following. They delay the date on which land application restrictions take effect to October 1st, 2028. They clarify and alter rules around the commingling of sewage sludge for the purpose of reducing concentrations of regulated PFAS and the land application of commingled sewage sludge. They extend timelines for implementing a mitigation plan from 2 years to 5 years. They alter rules around testing for PFAS, and they alter requirements regarding assistance by MDE to publicly owned treatment works that do not have an industrial pretreatment program.
Okay. You recall the testimony on this? I know, I remember a lot of the ag community was here and I think in support of the bill, but as I recall. But yes, Senator Croza, there's two PFAS bills. This one did not receive much opposition, but Senator Croza?
I just want to understand, and again, trying to recollect from the hearing, the concern that farmers might be held liable. And
I don't think Senator Gallion, I think, seemed pretty
maybe,
knowledgeable about this piece of legislation.
I had that coming from Worcester County asking that question.
So, yeah, this is the one that that the Farm Bureau and I believe grain producers, they all kind of worked everything out, and they were at the there to testify in favor of. So I'm just looking.
I remember Lindsey Thompson and Tyler Huff at the panel supporting the bill. So I do remember that.
Yeah.
No, it's totally legit. But anything on this issue? I don't recall this coming up at the hearing.
I don't know anything about that. There's nothing in this bill that I would interpret as creating liability for farmers. I will put it that way.
Okay, any additional questions about this piece of legislation or the amendments as described by April? Okay, is there a motion to move the amendments? Okay, Senator Harris moves these amendments. Senator Gallion will second them. Okay, all in favor of the Love amendments to Senate Bill 719, raise your hand. All opposed, that motion carries. Senate Bill 719 as amended is in front of us. Is there a motion? Senator Harris moves the bill as amended. Senator Hester second. Discussion. All in favor of 719 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed, that motion carries unanimously. Next up, Senate Bill 848, Senator Gallion.
Senate Bill 848, Municipal Elections, Information on Candidates and Voting Procedures and Locations. This bill requires a municipality to submit to the State Board of Elections, one, at least 6 months before the candidate filing deadline for municipal elections, the qualifications to be a candidate for each office on the municipal ballot, and two, within 1 week after the candidate filing deadline, a list of each qualified candidate for each office on the municipal ballot and information on how to vote and where to vote in municipal elections. The State Board of Elections must publish the information on its website immediately after the information is submitted by the municipality. There is one amendment. It's offered by Senator Gallion. Found it on page 92. And it looks funny because it's the House bill, and these were the amendments offered in the Glee Club on the other side. And so these amendments adjust the date by which a municipality must submit the qualifications to be a candidate for each office on the municipal ballot to 3 months from 6 months. It requires a municipality to report specified information to the state board regarding a special election. And it finally adjusts the date by which the municipality must submit certain information, including party affiliation for partisan elections, to the state board from 1 week after the candidate filing deadline to 10 business days after the deadline.
You mentioned House amendments. Is the bill passed out of the Glee Committee?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Senator Vice Chair Kagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On page 93, Stacy, line 1. Is there in our code a definition of the word immediately that isn't immediately as we would use it?
Not that I'm familiar with.
So immediately, that means to me like instantly, the very first second after a municipality submits the information required, the state board shall publish the information on the state board's website. What if it's night or weekend or?
I think that it can be read as reasonably as quickly as possible.
That's why I asked
Yes.
you, is there some definition?
No, but
so this reads kind of reasonably, immediately, other than immediately. Angelica, MML, good with this? Medium. Mr. Chair, is it okay to hear MML's thoughts on this since they're affected by it so
Okay, you're
directly?
here. Have you been waiting all day, staying around for the, okay. What's
really like
MML's
hanging out
view
with
on this? Because it deals with municipal elections.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Vice Chair Angelica Bailey-Thupari for the Maryland Municipal League. We have worked with the House sponsor and Senator Gallion on this bill over the last few weeks. We've gotten to a really good place on the 6-month deadline, the 1-week deadline. The issue that we are experiencing now deals with special elections, which is language that was put into the bill through the House subcommittee yesterday that we were not aware of. And it includes special elections in this bill, which, as you've all heard me talk about special elections and how unique they are and how logistically and administratively different they are for municipalities from general elections, does complicate our position on this bill. Again, we appreciate the work with the sponsors, but at this point, with the House amendments, it's a different bill for us.
Okay. Sure.
So, thank you. Special elections, I might have missed the memo on that. Now, in some municipalities, there are primaries and generals, like in Annapolis, in Baltimore, but not in Rockville or Gaithersburg. I don't know. So how is a special election harder or more complicated from doing a primary or something?
Yeah, thank you for the question. A special election often arises because there's been some sort of immediate or time-sensitive issue. Often someone, unfortunately, has passed away, for example, and it's in the middle of a term or it's during an active term. And so the municipality holds what we call a special election to replace that person. Those often have a very quick turnaround time. And to add additional administrative burdens onto a locality, especially one of our smaller municipalities that have, under 3,000 population and maybe only have 1 or 2 full-time folks, if that, and have a lot of not a lot, don't have enough really volunteers to help run general elections, let alone special, that come up so quickly. This would be an increased administrative burden when we're already having a hard time getting folks to help us run these.
So just to clarify, and thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm on page 92, and I know you're not looking at it.
I can.
Of the revised. So on a regular municipal election, you're okay with 3 months rather than 6 months. That's more reasonable.
We are.
Okay, and then it's the special. Right now, this is proposing within 10 days. That's too fast, or you don't want to do it at all? Can you just teach us what's reasonable, you think, for the really small municipalities?
Absolutely, and thank you to the entire committee. I know this is the last bill, and you guys are all probably really tired, so I appreciate the attention to this. The 6 month down to 3 month, totally fine. The 1 week to 10 days, totally fine. Both of those for the general elections. The original intent, as we discussed it with the House sponsor, and he's comfortable with me saying this, is that this was not supposed to impact special elections at all. We had drafted language earlier this week. His amendment was not taken in sub yesterday. That would have made clear that this bill is not to apply to special elections. That amendment was not taken in sub yesterday. So were the Senate to adopt the House version as it came out of sub yesterday, this bill would apply to specials, so that 3 months instead of 6 and that 10 days instead of 1 week would apply to both general and special municipal elections.
And you said the committee, the subcommittee has already voted this, and this is the way it's voted out.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank
Senator
you.
Gallion, you're the sponsor of the bill, so do you have any, give us some info here.
Thank you. And, you know, it's a little different over here. We rarely deal with subcommittees, but it's my understanding that, so that's the election law subcommittee okay.
Yes, sir.
So they passed it, this what we have here in front of us unanimously in that committee, in that subcommittee, and the bill sponsor is a member of that subcommittee. So he voted for that. As you mentioned, the two amendments that, you know, the two requests were taken. I've only heard secondhand about the discussion in that subcommittee, but I'm honestly comfortable going with what that subcommittee voted out unanimously out of that subcommittee. And, you know, we do want to be cognizant of putting burdens on local, you know, on local municipalities, and you talk about the smaller ones, but to me, if that municipality is capable of holding a special election, I think they're also capable of doing this. So I would just like to, you know, keep it the same as the what was passed out of that subcommittee.
Okay, thank you, Angelica. Do you have other questions for Angelica? Okay, well, let's go to Senator Carrozza then, and then we'll go back to the vice chair. Senator Carrozza.
I just want to clarify, and Senator Gallion, just on that explanation. The issue seems to be whether you include special elections or not. All we're saying is that the reporting of the information would apply to special elections. Is that my understanding? Because if they're already, I'm trying to understand right now, the bill requires the reporting for all municipal elections, and now this is.
So what they have to submit to the state board. If you remember, we had a bill a year or two ago that dealt with like election results and trying to get everything in one place where people could look on the Board of Elections website. So they would have to do within those 10 business days, a list of each qualified candidate for each office on the ballot, information on how to vote and where to vote in that election. So those are two main things, right?
So the point being, if you're going to do elections reporting, you would include special elections?
Yep.
Just,
okay. Okay, Vice Chair Kagan.
So I'm trying to understand, I really want to respect MML. Gaithersburg and Rockville, not to be, again, totally myopic, wouldn't have a problem with this, but you're talking about the teeny tiny towns that might have one staff person or no staff people running their elections?
So I wouldn't want to speak for Gaithersburg and Rockville without confirming that that's true, because they may also have concerns with this. This came, of course, before our legislative committee, and there was a lot of discussion about this bill. We barely came out favorable with amendment. But yes, to your point, Madam Vice Chair, a lot of towns really only have one and a half full part-time staffers, volunteers from the town that are helping to run these elections.
And why is it hard within 10 days after a special election is scheduled? Why is it hard to put the date up and the office, probably one vacancy because sadly so-and-so died or moved out of town or something, and what the qualifications are? Why is that hard?
Thank you. That's a great question. And I know it sounds a little silly, right? Everybody's on Facebook all the time. We're on our phones constantly. How hard is it really for a local to just post it somewhere or to just know? The thing is, following an election or even leading up to an election, there is substantial administrative work that needs to be done. And to have such a small team who, like I said, maybe volunteers, maybe not be as knowledgeable about the intricacies and the legalities as we all might be on these things, the chances of someone accidentally failing to comply with one of these regulations or mandates is non-zero. And then when you add the rush and the stress of a special election, that increases the chance of, even without malintent, somebody messing up, and the penalty for a local government could be quite high.
Okay, at some point, guys, we're going to have to.
Yeah, let's fish or cut bait here.
Exactly. So
I
how about one
messaged-
last question, and then we can.
So just to report to the committee, I tried messaging Delegate Fair, who's chair of the election subcommittee, with whom I work closely, and I tried messaging Delegate Tomlinson. In my opinion, and I'm only one vote, one thing we could do is check with those two people and see what they think. We do have time. This isn't about killing the bill or messing with the bill. I am curious because, Angelica, it does seem not that big a deal, but I'm not expert at teeny tiny towns and their challenges. So, Senator Gallion, I don't know what you think about checking in with Delegate Tomlinson or Delegate Fair, because it really would be easy to.
They just voted in favor of this.
Sure.
So, I mean, what are you going to check about?
But what she said is there wasn't time to consider, there was a Tomlinson amendment, is that what you said?
There was.
And the Tomlinson amendment wasn't considered, that you wanted, right?
My understanding from what I saw watching the sub yesterday was that Delegate Tomlinson did introduce his amendment, but the subcommittee did not. I don't want to put words in their mouth. They didn't take it up.
Okay, so, I mean, it was considered, I mean, so, okay, Senator Gallion, you, before we got into the colloquy, I think, were prepared to just press forward with the House amendments that were adopted, that were voted on by the very folks that we're just talking about. Do you want to still do that? And if so, then you need to act with a motion favorable on your amendments, or you can hold it till next Saturday. I mean, it's your bill.
I'd like to move the amendment to line up.
Okay, so we have a motion from the sponsor of the bill on the amendments that have been moving through the House committee. Senator Harris seconds. Discussion, further discussion?
Those amendments are.
The ones we're looking at.
It had to do with the special election, you know.
To include it, or, I mean, I thought the issue wasn't including it, right?
Okay.
If I may, I'm happy to speak to it, but I also defer to the sponsor.
I just want to make sure after that conversation.
It's what's in your packet that we've been discussing.
So, the provision that she's discussing says, within 10 business days after a special election is scheduled, the municipality shall report to the state board the date, the office that's being considered, and the qualifications. That is what they are saying is a burden on the municipality.
The qualifications part?
Right.
Which would be
The
like how old you have to
qualifications,
be
the
and stuff
office
like
being considered, and the date.
Okay, guys, so we do have a motion and a second on the amendment. And so we do have that in front of us. I would just suggest we do let's do a roll call and on the amendments on the amendment. We only have in front of us are these amendments the House has put on.
More than I did. No, I'm talking to her. State bill, statewide bill.
Unless you want to, are you good? You
Yeah,
ready? Okay, well,
try it, see
Lemuria, do a roll call
All
just,
right.
just on the amendments that the House Subcommittee has put on this bill.
All right, Senator Kagan?
Aye.
Senator Kagan, yes. Senator Hester? Yes. Senator Hester, yes. Senator Gallion?
Yes.
Senator Gallion, yes. Senator Watson?
Yes.
Senator Watson, yes. Senator Atara?
Yes.
Senator Atara, yes. Senator Harris? Senator Harris, yes. Senator Brooks?
Yes.
Senator Brooks, yes. Senator Carosa?
Yes.
Senator Carosa, yes. Senator Simoneau? Senator Simoneau, yes. And Senator Fowler?
Yes, amendment carries unanimously. Senate Bill 848 as amended is in front of us. Would the sponsor like to move the bill as
I'd
amended?
like to move the bill as amended.
Okay, 848 is amended, a second from Senator Harris. All in favor of 848 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed, motion carries, which brings us to the final bill of the day and of the week, Senate Bill 861. April?
Senate Bill 861, Environment, Stormwater Management, Agricultural Land. This bill requires the Maryland Department of the Environment to adopt regulations that establish provisions and a model ordinance that require local stormwater management programs to enforce stormwater management regulations on agricultural land with the advice and consent of the local soil conservation district. There are amendments in the bill packet. The amendment appears on page 95. Reprint starts on page 98. These amendments are being offered by the bill sponsor, Senator Zucker. These were the amendments that were discussed at the bill hearing. Amendments essentially strike the bill's requirements and instead require the Department of the Environment, in consultation with the Department of Agriculture, to define agritourism in regulation and consider in regulation certain best management practices for stormwater management for agritourism. The amendments also add uncodified language requiring Montgomery County and the Montgomery County Soil Conservation District to, in consultation with the Department of the Environment, review the county's current process for reviewing and approving stormwater management plans for agritourism as specified. That report is due December 31st, 2026.
Okay, Senator Hester?
I couldn't hear the very last thing that you said. Was that just for Montgomery County or was it statewide?
Just for Montgomery County, I believe sort of what came up in the discussions around the bill that were happening sort of before the bill hearing, there is already a provision in law. You can see that. They actually added it in through the amendments. So existing law, this is section 4-204, so this is in the bottom of the very last page of the voting packet, saying each county or municipality may provide by ordinance for the review and approval of stormwater management plans by the local soil conservation district. I believe the bill sponsors' thought was to have the Montgomery County, because it's dealing specifically with issues there, have them look at how other counties are doing it, specifically counties that are delegating this to the Soil Conservation District, and maybe get some best practices.
We don't currently have agritourism defined as statutes or not in regs?
Right, so this is defining agritourism specifically for the purpose of stormwater management.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, any further questions for April? Okay, anybody want to move the amendments, the Zucker amendments? Senator Harris, second from the Vice Chair. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of the Zucker amendments, raise your hand. All opposed, amendments carry. Last act of the day, Senate Bill 861 as amended. Senator Harris moves favorable. Second from Vice Chair Kagan. All in favor of 861 as amended, raise your hand. All opposed? Okay, that motion carries. And that completes a long day for this committee, but we passed a lot of bills. And I want to hereby adjourn this meeting.